Trump's Vice President, JD Vance, has sparked a political firestorm by accusing elements linked to Israel of trying to derail diplomacy with Iran. JD Vance lashed out after claiming he faced an aggressive campaign over his support for an Iran peace memorandum, saying critics could go to hell. Vance accused pro-Israel voices of trying to undermine efforts to reach an agreement with Iran and push Washington toward confrontation. Vance alleged that some Israeli-linked interests wanted to pull the United States into another prolonged conflict with Iran instead of pursuing diplomacy. JD Vance claimed he became the target of a coordinated political campaign after refusing to support a path toward war with Iran. US Vice President JD Vance accused elements within the Israeli government of attempting to undermine Washington's diplomatic outreach toward Iran. Vance made the remarks during a wide-ranging interview with podcast host Joe Rogan while discussing the Trump administration's Iran policy. The vice president said he had faced a well-funded political campaign following his support for the Iran peace memorandum. Vance said the attacks were aimed at discrediting him for backing President Donald Trump's negotiation strategy with Tehran. JD Vance said, and I quote, "There was this Time article that came out yesterday. It lists a bunch of people who have been paid by a former Trump campaign person who was himself paid by certain elements within the Israeli government. And those people are attacking me viciously for trying to accomplish the negotiation objective that the president set for the country." Unquote. Earlier, Time magazine reported that a pro-Israel influence campaign targeted young conservative voters across the United States. The report said former Trump campaign manager Brad Parscale helped lead the communications effort aimed at that audience. Time cited FARA filings alleging that the campaign was directed and financed by Israeli authorities. According to the report, the effort sought to prevent younger MAGA supporters from turning against Israel over the Iran conflict. JD Vance said, and I quote, "It's social media posts, it's leaking to reporters, they're attacking me obsessively saying that we should not be negotiating with Iran. We should just keep the military campaign going indefinitely. People have come after me and said I'm influenced by Qatar, that I'm influenced by foreign governments, that I take my marching orders from Tucker Carlson. And there's just so much out there. Foreign governments try to influence the United States all the time. Israel does it. Other countries do it. What bothers me is when American leadership allows that influence to affect their judgment and to affect what they are advocating for. There are some people within the Israeli system we know beyond a shadow of a doubt who are manipulating and trying to change American public opinion to keep the war going on indefinitely." Vance said President Trump opposed an Iranian nuclear weapon based on America's own strategic interests rather than pressure from foreign governments. The vice president has emerged as one of the Trump administration's strongest defenders of the Iran Memorandum of Understanding and renewed diplomacy. Vance has also previously urged members of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government to support President Trump's diplomatic approach toward Iran. On July 15th, the United States launched a rare wave of broad daylight airstrikes against targets inside Iran, marking a dramatic escalation in the conflict. The U.S. Central Command claimed the 90-minute barrage was aimed exclusively at Iranian military installations across multiple locations. CENTCOM initially insisted that only military facilities were struck, but videos circulating online quickly fueled questions over that narrative. In Iran's Chabahar, a marine control tower was reportedly hit during the July 15 strikes, raising fresh concerns over the scope of the operation. Iran also alleged that a civilian wheat storage facility in Hawizeh was struck a day earlier, accusing Washington of targeting non-military infrastructure. However, the U.S. Central Command flatly rejected Iran's accusations, maintaining that every strike was directed solely at legitimate military objectives. CENTCOM said, and I quote, "Claim, Iranian state media claims that U.S. forces struck a civilian wheat storage facility in Hawizeh on July 14th. This is false. Truth, on July 14th, U.S. forces hit Iranian military targets in Bandar Abbas, Khormuz, Awaz, Keshem, Tun, Bushehr, and Kui stacked to degrade Iran's ability to attack commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, Iran has targeted innocent civilians transiting the strait and in neighboring Gulf countries." End quote. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump warned that additional American strikes against Iran would continue if the situation escalates further.
Has the war resumed?
Well, I guess you could define it any way you want, but certainly we're beating them up really badly. They have to be beat up. We're hitting them very, very hard. We're hitting every single thing that they have along the shore, along the the waterfront. I mean, literally 2 days ago, we had a deal, and then they broke it at the last moment. They broke it.
Will these strikes continue?
They'll continue until I say it's enough. I mean, they'll continue. They've been, the word the military likes to use is degrade. They've been degraded to a very low level. But we're going to hit them very hard tonight. We're going to hit them very hard tomorrow night. We're going to hit them very hard the night after. And then next week it gets really bad for them because next week comes the power plants. Next week comes the bridges. We're going to knock out all their power plants. We're going to knock out all their bridges unless they get to the table and negotiate.
When you made the decision to launch Operation Epic Fury, was there a specific piece of intelligence that made you decide to launch this operation?
Well, it was specific in the sense that it just never stops, and they're going to go forward, and they wanted a nuclear weapon. We knew they wanted a nuclear weapon. If they have a nuclear weapon, Israel wouldn't be here. Look,
they said they didn't want a nuclear weapon.
Well, they say that. Everything they say is a lie. They lie. I've never seen anything like it. You better make a deal. You're not going to have anybody left. We're being very careful with the civilian population, as you know, but I said, you better make a deal. You're not going to have anything left.
And you think they will?
They should. I don't know if they will or not.
America's swift rebuttal came only after Iran issued a stark warning that directly challenged Donald Trump over the latest strikes. Iran's foreign ministry warned that any further breach of the memorandum of understanding would trigger a proportionate military response. Iran's foreign ministry said, and I quote, "The other side has violated its commitments and broken its promises from the outset of the memorandum of understanding. And the Islamic Republic will respond proportionately both in the field and in implementing its commitments." End quote. The IRGC has already begun retaliatory action against what it describes as the U.S. naval blockade around the Strait of Hormuz. On July 15th, the IRGC reportedly fired warning shots at 2 vessels attempting to pass through the strategic waterway without complying. Iran also delivered another pointed message to Donald Trump by unveiling a bold new mural in Tehran on July 15th. A new mural depicting U.S. President Donald Trump in a coffin has been unveiled in Tehran, reflecting the raw anger and desire for revenge coursing through Iran's hardline circles. The mural was installed at Tehran's Ingelab Square, a symbolically charged location often used for political messaging and revolutionary imagery. The artwork shows Trump lying in a coffin alongside the phrase "We kill Trump," turning the display into an explicit death threat rather than just a protest image. This installation comes amid mounting hardline calls for revenge after Ali Khamenei's killing, with public art now echoing the rhetoric of retaliation. The mural follows days of escalating military confrontation between Tehran and Washington.